You're listening to Captain John Doe, real aviation stories told anonymously. Let's get into it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Captain John Doe podcast. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Mindy. Hello.
So we have something really special in store for you guys today. Mindy and I recently recorded a live podcast at NBAA-BACE 2025, and we got to record it, and that's what we're going to share with you guys today.
Right. We've been hyping this up for a while, so it's finally coming at you guys. We had the best time at NBAA in general, but they had a brand new creator studio hosted by Signature Aviation. So ahead of this live taping in front of a live audience, so there's no edits or anything in this. And we asked all of you guys to submit some stories for this, specifically about an FBO because of Signature Aviation, and or about business aviation, private jets, anything like that to really fit the NBAA mood.
So once again, thank you guys for supporting this podcast because it gave us the opportunity to do something super cool. First time having a podcast at NBAA too, by the way. And it was the Captain John Doe.
Of anyone. Yeah, they've never had a live podcast recording at base ever. So we were the first, which is pretty freaking cool. So thank you guys for your support. As always, submit your stories. We've been seeing them roll in lately. We have so many good episodes ahead of us. And now let's roll the tapes. The old black box.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of NBAA-BACE and the Creator Studio. Thanks for joining us. I am so excited to announce Mindy and Kevin Lindheim and their live podcast recording. No names, no tail numbers. Live every Wednesday, right?
Yeah, we need you for our new
every
intro.
Wednesday.
Just come on the show with us, Alex.
No, so excited. I know you've had a lot of submissions over the last couple of weeks, so I'm so excited to hear what you got for us.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Captain John Doe. It's a podcast with me. My name is Mindy.
And I'm Kevin.
And this podcast is pretty unique because in aviation, you'll find that there's so much educational content and, how to fly in ILS and how to get your next career. And while we have some of those conversations for sure, this is definitely more entertainment. It's more lighthearted. It's a lot of the fun stories that you might hear in the hangar at 10 p.m. after a long day of flying over a couple of beers.
I said this on one of our previous episodes that we're not a current events podcast. We are a podcast for all of you guys, pilots, everybody, to share anonymous stories. And we're going to just read them and react to them. And that's the concept. Mindy kind of came up with this, and it's been taking off. And we're really happy to be here at NBAA with you guys.
Yeah, the keyword is anonymous. So the best stories are the ones that you probably don't want your name on. And that's where this podcast kind of came from, is where when you hear those stories from your friends, you're like, man, I wish everyone knew that story. But of course, you can't always slap your name on it. That's what this is for. So it's anonymous. Also to be noted that we don't fact check these. There's not a way for us to do that. So we just read what comes to us.
Yeah, who knows if they're real or not, but let's assume they are.
So a little bit of background about ourselves before we get into the stories that I'm sure you guys all want to hear. My name is Mindy Lindheim. My primary career is as an aircraft sales broker for Lone Mountain Aircraft, which we have several Lone Mountain people in our live audience today. Thank you guys for coming. And I really love selling airplanes. I love doing everything in aviation because I'm also a pilot and an aircraft owner. We have a Cessna 182A, a 1957 vintage Cessna 182 that we bop around in, which has been really fun. And I love to sell planes, especially from my ownership experience, because I've learned so much from being an aircraft owner. So it really allows me to blend both of those worlds and my expertise from that. And I am a jet-rated pilot. I have my 525 type rating, a citation longitude type rating. Just love everything aviation.
I'm not nearly as qualified as a pilot as my wife, if you guys picked up on that. But my background is I was an air traffic controller for about a decade. I started my career at Atlanta Center And then we eventually moved to Orlando, and I switched to Orlando approach. So I got center approach, but no tower. In that time frame, we bought that Cessna 182. I have a at-home CFI. I have a personal airplane, and I wasn't a pilot. So we started changing that. If you guys listen to the podcast, you're going to hear some stories about Mindy and I and our training journey together. But
we had a very bumpy ride when I was his instructor. Everyone, when we said, oh, I'm going to teach Kevin how to fly, every single person was like, what do you mean? Like, you know, you're going to get divorced, right?
Yeah, I don't recommend it for anyone out there thinking about it. Like, you know,
I quit at least 3 or 4 times during that. Like formally quit.
She took the keys away from me, and then I was grounded. Yeah. But we worked through it somehow. And then Oshkosh last year, with a lot of these guys and girls in the audience, you know, really changed my opinion of what I wanted to do. So I immediately transitioned into flight training, and I got my instrument, commercial, multi, CFI, II in about 6 months total. We moved from Orlando out to Las Vegas, and I am flight instructing currently, and I changed to the other side of the mic. So that's a little bit about me.
Right. So as we are taking these stories in from not just pilots, but mechanics and flight attendants and maybe just an everyday passenger on a commercial airline flight, we have these backgrounds that really come into how we review the stories. So from my sales background, from our pilot careers, from owning an airplane, from living on an air park, from ATC. So we have all these different types of background that allows us to dive a little deeper. And then normally we're going to be sharing some of our own personal experiences or stories that it might remind us of as well. So how we normally do an episode is a little bit like this. You guys are getting to see behind the scenes, and then we go into some of the stories. So these are real listener submitted stories. Prior to this episode of being asked to be out here at NBAA-BACE, which is super exciting. It's their first live podcast taping at BACE. And we put some stuff out there on social media asking people to send us submissions specifically about business aviation or about an FBO experience, because we are sitting right now in the Creator Studio by Signature Aviation FBO. So thank you guys so much for having us here on this platform. And now I think we should just get into it.
Why don't you start your first story?
All right. Sometimes reading is hard, so just bear with me. We do a lot of edits sometimes in our real episodes. So this is an FBO story submitted by a listener. About 35 years ago, I worked at a small city FBO in Canada. As an oil refinery town, we saw our fair share of high-end jets, but the biggest attraction at our FBO wasn't the aircraft. It was our mascot, Peto the cat, Pete for short. Pete had a bed on the windowsill overlooking the ramp right beside the airside entry door. The owner of the FBO had taken him in as a stray that wandered onto the airport one day, and he never left. Originally, Pete was meant to keep mice out of the hangar, but instead he became the heart of our FBO. Now, I'll admit I've always been a dog guy, not a cat person. One of my ramp duties was feeding Pete and cleaning his litter box. Yet somehow he grew on me so much that he's the only cat that I've truly ever liked. Every transiting pilot knew Pete, and if they didn't, he quickly made friends, happily accepting pets as they walked through the lounge. We even kept lint rollers handy so that pilots could clean cat hair off their black pants. As you can probably guess, Pete ran the FBO. He had free reign of the entire facility, including the ramp. Remarkably, he knew to stay clear of running aircraft when making his daily mouse patrol through the tall grass. One summer morning, I arrived for my shift. I fed Pete, cleaned his litter box, let him out for his patrol. Shortly after, a Challenger 601 arrived. As usual, I met the crew at the air stair, set up their rental cars, and took care of the fuel and catering. The jet was on the ground for several hours while the executives attended meetings, and during that time, the crew naturally made friends with Pete. Later in the day, the pager buzzed. The passengers were inbound. The FO filed flight plans, captain went out to the APU, and as usual, left the air stair door open with the curtain drawn closed to keep the cabin cool on that 90-degree day. Passengers arrived, boarded, aircraft departed. I went about my normal duties until mid-afternoon, a regular customer asked me where Pete was. He had always stopped to give him a scratch on the ramp door. I brushed it off, saying that Pete was probably still out on patrol. Not long after the phone rang, I'm sure you know where this is going.
I do.
It was the Challenger's captain. "I think we've got a stowaway from your FBO," he said. Sure enough, Pete had slipped aboard and emerged mid-flight from under a passenger's seat. He startled the executives at first and then promptly charmed them, spending the rest of their 3-hour flight lounging in style. When they landed in Dallas, from Canada, remember? When they landed in Dallas, the captain called to say that they can't keep him, that his wife has drawn the line at getting another pet. The FBO owner bought me a same-day airline ticket, handed me a cat carrier, and told me to bring Pete home. That evening at DFW, the captain met me at the terminal, and we coaxed Pete into the carrier. He wasn't so thrilled about that. After all, his outbound trip had been in a Challenger seat. And I checked him in for his returning flight. The next morning, walked back to the FBO with Pete to the owner's delight. But that wasn't Pete's only adventure. A few years later, I was instructing for the FBO's flight school, and on one memorable day, I was demonstrating the dreaded lesson number 13, the spin entry, for a private pilot student in a Cessna 172. As we dropped over into a spin, an odd noise came from the back. I immediately recovered, glanced back, and there was Pete, clinging to the carpet in the baggage compartment, hanging on for dear life. So we cut the lesson short. The student had enough, and so did the cat. Pete lived a long life at the airport. The hangar stayed mouse-free, and the lounge chair stayed covered in cat hair. He may have started out as a stray, but became a true member of the FBO family.
Wow. Pete, I think Pete travels better than most of us, doesn't he?
Yeah. I knew where that was going, that there was going to be a stowaway, and I wonder how that goes going from international with pet. Isn't there rules about that?
There probably was some quarantine that they had to do for old Pete the cat there, didn't they?
At least it was just from Canada and not from somewhere farther. But I think it's really funny that they sent him to go retrieve the cat on a same-day round trip. But this reminds me a lot that we used to have a hanger cat.
I was just thinking about that. Oh, Whiskey. Her name was Whiskey. Just a little baby cat that we found her in a dumpster. But
Yes, so we had a hanger cat for similar reasons. So we lived on an air park in Georgia on a grass strip in a very wooded area. So we found that there was a lot of pests that would always get into our hangar. And we had a bird and a bat and a mouse and a lizard problem.
Plural.
So we would come out to pre-flight. At the time, we had a Cub Crafter, a little tailwheel airplane. And I remember going out to pre-flight one day and looking in the cowling, and he was covered in birds' nests, like several of them. And they were all over. So then we got the cat. And I think it's just even like the smell of a cat that a lot of pests will just move out. And that happened right away. But then there was some lingering ones. And then do you remember what we had next to the door?
We had some old oil, right?
No, a kill count.
Oh.
The board.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had a kill count for Whiskey because she was a little killer. I mean, it's a cat. What do you think she's going to do? But, I mean, what was her tally up to at one point?
It was a lot. So we had a whiteboard, and as she started to catch the pests, we had a kill count. I don't know if that's appropriate, but...
It worked. We didn't have any birds in our airplane anymore, so, I mean... Why else did we get the cat, right?
Yeah, but we never had problems with her getting in a plane. I don't think she ever got in any of the airplanes.
That's what we think. I mean, she probably went on some joyrides in Dreamsicle.
I was nervous about having a cat in the hangar, though, because it was a fabric airplane. And I was nervous about her wanting to claw it. And we'd never owned a cat before. That was the first time we ever had a cat. But I was very nervous that she would want to do that thing with their claws.
Yeah.
And get into the fabric.
That was the most independent animal we've ever owned, too. Yeah,
she was like a dog. She sounds a lot like Pete. Her and Pete could have got married.
They could.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Pete, for sharing that story.
Wait, do you also remember that viral video of the cat in the wing?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure everyone's
seen that. It was in like a Cub as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, that they're flying along. And in the video, you can see the cat. It's up in like the wing root the whole time. And then when they finally realize, it's so funny because all the viewers that are watching the video, you can see the cat up there like hanging on for dear life the whole time. And then they see it and they freak out. That's funny.
Wow. Okay. Well, how this podcast goes is she shares a story like that, we react, and then I go for mine. So another listener submitted. So if anyone's out here in the NBA world that submitted this, thanks, because I'm pretty sure someone is here. That's why we're reading it. Maybe.
But
maybe they're not here.
I did see that note.
Anyways. All right. So first off, I just want to say how much I enjoy this podcast. It's always entertaining and the perfect thing to listen to while waiting around the FBOs. We felt the need to leave that in, by the way. That's not the story. So here's my story. A few years back, I was working for a corporation that operated a surprisingly decent-sized fleet of corporate jets for a company its size. I was primarily assigned to the Citation 10, usually paired with more senior PICs. Often, our chief pilot. That meant I was almost always in the right seat. One of our department rules was that whenever we departed out of our home base, Las Vegas, the PIC always flew the leg. Our chief pilot, an old-timer well past his prime, always found a way to pair himself with me on the schedule. Honestly, he was kind of a jerk. Very aggressive, very abrasive. I personally didn't mind him as much as the others did, but he was universally disliked. Most of the team hated flying with him. I always figured he'd team up with me because, like him, I had a military background, though from a very different era. And because I was the least senior of the 750 rated pilots, he had a lot of strange habits. Nothing unsafe, but odd enough that you'd sometimes question whether he had ever been properly checked out in the jet. The one that ultimately ended his career was his obsession with prepping the airplane the night before. He wouldn't just stock snacks and drinks. He'd actually configure the cockpit as if it were ready to go, short of inputting the actual flight plan. That even including setting takeoff trim values he had calculated the night before. And because he assumed the hangar was secure, he never rechecked their settings before departure. After a few flights where he discovered his trim settings were off during taxi, he became convinced someone was messing with him and trying to take his job. To be clear, there was never a safety issue and passengers were never in danger. Personally, I thought he was just getting old and suggested that he wait until the morning of the flight to configure the aircraft. That suggestion didn't go over well. He flipped out, yelled at me, even addressing me by my old military rank, and treated me like garbage the rest of the day. A similar incident happened when he was paired with another pilot, this time with the CEO of our company on board. They were lined up on 19 right at Las Vegas when he realized something was wrong and had to taxi back to reset things during the middle of a very busy morning push. That raised a red flag. Unlike many corporate leaders, our CEO was an av geek and a licensed pilot himself. He noticed. Later, I was told the CEO asked him what had happened. The chief pilot blamed maintenance, but the FO on that flight, the real whistleblower of the story, told the truth. After that, more coincidence began to happen on flights with the chief pilot. Trash would mysteriously appear in the CEO's seat before boarding. Small changes would show up in the jet's setup. All little things, but enough to make him look bad. Eventually, the CEO had a one-on-one last chance meeting with the chief pilot. Our maintenance lead overheard some of it and spread word that the CEO thought the chief was too old to fly. Shortly after, the chief pulled me aside and insisted people were sabotaging him. He even asked me to pull hangar security camera footage to prove others were sneaking into the jet after he set it up. I wasn't able to figure out the system, so he called in the company's security department to investigate. A few weeks later, the CEO quietly demoted him to a reserve pilot. That was awkward for everyone. But soon after, one of our other pilots, a relaxed, well-liked guy, was promoted into the role. The atmosphere of the flight department instantly improved. Then came my moral crossroads. A few weeks later, I got a call from a security team. They told me that every time they reviewed footage tied to the chief's complaints, they saw one of our other pilots, a quiet, religious type, entering the jet the night before and changing things around. They asked if I wanted them to file a report or escalate it to the CEO. Here's where I might have been a jerk. I told them not to. I knew that if the CEO found out, he might put the chief pilot back in command, and we'd all be back under his thumb. The entire department, pilots, mechanics, even scheduling, knew he was a problem. None of us wanted him back in power. Not long after, I ran into the pilot who had been caught on camera and asked him directly if he was behind it. He said, yeah. In fact, he told me that there had been a year-long department-wide effort to undermine the chief pilot until he finally stepped aside. Mechanics messed with his squawks, pilots adjusted his setups, even his computer was tampered with, all to push him towards retirement. They hadn't told me because they weren't sure if I'd go along with it. A week later, the chief pilot finally retired. Years later than he probably should have. After that, the department was smooth sailing, and for the first time, flying for that company actually became enjoyable.
That's a tough one. There's so many layers there because he didn't know at first, and then at the end he knew and didn't do anything. But I want to know what you would do.
What I feel like is whoever submitted this is just like, you know, getting their piece out there.
They're getting it off their chest.
It's like they feel really guilty. I mean, this is pretty bad. I mean, I'm not in the flight department, but if you're messing with the cockpit of an airplane, it doesn't seem like a great
I've never heard
idea.
of anything like that before.
Like, so we take your apology, I guess.
What would you do if you found out, if security called you and said, hey, this is what's happening, and then you found out that that's what they were doing and they sabotaged him, messing with the airplane, did all that, what would you do?
I mean, they're sabotaging the plane. That would be really hard for me to look the other way.
So you would tell the CEO?
I would probably tell the chief pilot first.
The chief pilot was in on it.
No, the
new
guy
one.
who was being sabotaged.
Oh.
I'd probably let him know that he was right.
That
At least
poor-
justified in his thought that he was being
I
sabotaged.
was about to say that poor guy thought he was going insane, and everyone was probably like,
He
yeah,
was
you're
going insane, it seemed like, you know, but...
That would drive someone insane. I would be really ticked off, though. But, like, would you feel comfortable staying in a flight department where you know people do stuff like that?
No, that's... I can't... I mean, my experience is not good enough to know that. Like, I can pull from my ATC side. Like, if I had a coworker that was maliciously messing with equipment while we're at work, there's no way I would tolerate that. And no way anyone else would tolerate that. So that's the only thing, like, I can think of is, like, if there's malicious intent. Like, if it was, like, fun and games, a one-off thing, I get that. I like to have fun. If you guys know who I am, like, you know, I have no problem playing a little trick, but I would never want to mess with someone's career either if it wasn't deserved.
Right.
Either.
Well, then even reversing to flying with a chief pilot, with a captain, with another pilot that you just truly don't get along with, that's always a tricky one to navigate. Obviously, you shouldn't tamper with aircraft to get them off the airplane.
No.
But what would you do if you had someone that you hated flying with, but you loved the flight department?
Oh, I would.
It's going to happen in your airline career.
Can I be
definitely.
sick those days?
Nope.
No. But I could be sick when I was a controller those days, right?
Yeah, you called in sick a lot.
Does that not work in corporate flight departments, Brian?
Yeah. I mean, at airlines, though, you get to fly with a lot of different people. So that's, I guess, why you have to be careful about where you choose to fly, because there's so many different spectrums of flight departments and how large they are. So the benefit of flying airline is you're going to fly with a lot of different types of people. And so you're going to fly with people that you really don't like and people that you do like, but you don't get stuck with them every single time you show up to work.
Correct.
And then on a medium-sized flight department, like this sounds like, he got him quite often, but not every time.
Well, that's why I'm picking the airline. I'm just kidding. I'm going business aviation, everybody.
Yeah, you need to go to the career fair.
I know. Is that open right now?
Yeah. Everyone commented when they showed up and saw you in your suit today.
Hey, I hit 1,000 hours, so if anyone's hiring out there, let me know, you know.
Right.
Super qualified with 7 hours of multi.
That's a really great story, though. I love that it was about business jets and chief pilots, flight departments. Las Vegas kind of ties everything together here at NBAA. So I guess we'll bring it to wrap it up. We're going to keep it kind of short and sweet for you guys today. But if you guys have a story, maybe any of these reminded you of a story, or you have a story of your own, it can be about anything in aviation. We would love to hear it. We'd love to have it on the podcast. So you just go to captainjohndoe.com and you submit it, and it's totally anonymous. So we don't see your name. We don't see your email. All we get is what you give us. So some people do give us their names. Honestly, I don't want it. Please don't. I don't want to be liable for having your secrets.
Yeah.
So just keep it anonymous.
I love good air traffic control stories too. That's my background. So if you guys have some good juicy ones, I would love to share it. I'm no longer an employee of the FAA, so I can publicly
You can talk about it now.
I could not before.
And we've gotten a lot of lab stories.
Yeah.
Everyone likes to tell us their bathroom
A lot of bathroom stories. It's kind of a common theme in like McDonald's and what it does to you in an airplane.
Yeah, don't eat McDonald's before you guys go fly. We've seen too many stories that it's now factual that you shouldn't eat McDonald's.
Mindy actually made like a AI thing of a McMonster chasing the captain down the the plane
From a
to the
previous
bathroom.
episode, we had a really good story about a captain that ate an egg McMuffin before he went to fly. And there was so many moments before he got on the airplane where he almost had a chance to go to the bathroom, but then it got taken away. So he got randomly selected during security. So then he was running late and then got to the plane and they were like, oh, we're on a maintenance delay. So he's like, great, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And then his friend stops him that he hasn't seen in ages. So he's trying to be polite. He's like, it's okay, I'm still going to have time. Wraps that up because then the gate agents are saying, oh, it's time to go. Maintenance is done. Like, let's go, go, go. We're already behind. So if you guys hadn't heard the story, long story short, is on the plane sweating bullets. He's the captain and then tells his FO, like, we have to pull over. Like, I have to go. So they pulled over on the de-ice pad, told all their passengers that they had another maintenance issue. And then he unbelted and had to go to the lab the whole way in the back of the plane and the tail. So had to walk past every single passenger and said that he had to christen the lab that was just freshly cleaned. And then he went back up and then they taxied out. But he pulled the plane over on a de-ice pad with a whole commercial flight full of people.
I'm sure there's some people out there that are agreeing with that.
The way he
right?
told it was perfect.
It was amazing.
Like, he understood the assignment.
That's the kind of stuff we want. Like, submit it, like, I wouldn't say fabricate it, but, you remember your English courses you guys took. And like,
maybe you could throw it in the chat GPT.
Like, I love
make
fun
this better.
adjectives and verbs that I don't even know what they are.
Yes. Well, a big thank you to NBAA and Signature Aviation for having us to let us do this and share an episode with you guys. So be sure to subscribe to our podcast. It's on all the major platforms. And we hope that you submit a story.
Also, if anyone's here for an extended period, I work at All in Aviation at Henderson, and we have Cirruses, and I'd be happy to do a Grand Canyon tour for anybody in the next couple days.
You're back to work tomorrow, aren't you?
I am. So if anyone wants to see
early.
Grand Canyon and a brand new G7,
hey,
come on.
A little plug for All in
go.
Aviation. We'll
Let's
keep it
go.
in the family. Well, thank you guys so much for being here, and we will see you guys next Wednesday.
Thank you.
Hey, good jobs.
Thanks for flying with Captain John Doe. If you have a story to share, visit CaptainJohnDoe.com and stay anonymous. New episodes every Wednesday. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and tell your favorite crew members.